Stuck in a toxic marriage, I begged him to be more emotionally present, but instead I found his ex in our home. Torn between my kids' stability and breaking free from a cheating husband, I'm left questioning my choices and my future. What's my next move? I, 27 years old female, met my now husband, John, 28 years old male, through a dating application in late 2016. I will admit that things moved quite quickly between us, and within a few months of dating, he moved in with me and my family. I convinced my parents to allow him to take the spare room while he got back on his feet. Other than that, our relationship felt relatively normal. However, sometime around mid-2017, I discovered that he was being unfaithful. He had been acting suspiciously protective of his phone, so I seized an opportunity to snoop. I found several nude photographs from his ex saved on his phone. When I confronted him, he deleted them in front of me and insisted that he had simply forgotten that he even had them. Though I did not entirely believe him, I chose to let it go. But only a couple of months later, I found those images saved in a different location on his phone, possibly in emails or something similar. When I confronted him again, he broke down in tears and claimed he had a problem, promising that he would seek help. He was basically insinuating that he was addicted to pornography. I ended our relationship at that point, but eventually found myself back with him after several months of on and off communication. He assured me that he had learned his lesson and had completely erased all images of his ex from his phone, computer, and other devices. At that time in my life, I was mainly focused on moving out of my family home and becoming independent. Thus, I agreed to look for a place together while we worked on our relationship. However, that arrangement fell apart rather quickly. Things seemed stable until I discovered that he had resumed contact with his ex. I found conversations between them in which they exchanged nude photographs and sexually explicit messages, and I completely lost it. For months, I had been trying to rebuild my trust in him, and he genuinely seemed to be turning over a new leaf. We were both working stable jobs, saving money, and appeared to be on the same page about our future. I had allowed myself to believe that everything would be okay between us, and that I could forgive his past mistakes. We broke up once more, but I could not move out since we were still bound by an ongoing lease. We shared living space, but by that point I was only treating him as a roommate. During one particular instance in mid-2018, while still stuck in this lease, John brought his ex to the apartment. I was unsure how long he and his ex had been in contact or if they had entered into a relationship, but I suspected they had some sort of understanding between them. His ex acted friendly towards me and eventually mentioned that she knew I was bisexual. She asked if I had ever explored that aspect of my identity and suggested that we explore it together. Initially, I was resistant, but she continued to assert that she and John were not together, had not slept together, and had no intention of doing so. Feeling a strong desire for revenge against John for how much he had hurt me, I decided to go for it. The results were predictable. I spiraled into a deep depression, trapped in that apartment with my ex, finding momentary relief in recreational drug use and my relationship with his ex, which left me feeling like a shadow of my former self. I tried to convince myself that I was no longer affected by the situation and that since John and I were no longer together, my emotions should not trouble me. However, discovering John in bed with his ex broke me even further, even though it did not surprise me at all. Brian, the friend I mentioned before, contacted me at some point asking for help with his computer. For context, I am quite skilled with computers and have built a few in my time, so I went to his apartment to assist him. While I was there, Brian relentlessly flirted with me, and in a moment of anger and resentment, I chose to sleep with him out of spite. It did not change anything, but upon reflection, I cannot bring myself to regret doing it. At the end of 2018, I reconnected with an old flame, Mike. Mike and I had dated on and off in 2016 before I met John, but the timing had not been right for us then. Back then, Mike was unemployed, living with his family, and not ready to commit to a full-time relationship. However, by 2018, he claimed he was prepared for that commitment. We dated for 9 months, and it was a dream. During this time, the lease on the apartment John and I had been sharing ended, and I asked Mike if he would consider moving in together. At that moment, I had not disclosed anything about John to Mike, as it did not seem necessary, especially since John felt more like a stranger to me at that point. Mike stated that it seemed too soon and that finding an apartment would be challenging for him. He disclosed that he had poor credit, limited savings, and would be unable to meet the income requirements in the area we lived in. I understood this, as John and I had only been able to afford our apartment because we had roommates, so I dropped the subject. I thought about moving back in with my family, but by that time, some of my siblings had returned home due to job losses, and I realized it would only strain my parents further. I agreed to continue living in the apartment for another year while making it clear to John that, now that I was in a new relationship, there would be no chance of reconciliation, as he persistently tried to convince me to do. By mid-2019, still dating Mike, I began to nitpick our relationship. I had always wanted to have children and be a stay-at-home mother, so I wanted to know if Mike had the same expectations. After 9 months together, it seemed like the right time to discuss it. Mike was perfect in every way. Our personalities meshed flawlessly, our humor was compatible, it felt as if we were made for each other. I desperately wanted us to be aligned in our desires, and I was heartbroken when he told me he could not envision a situation in which his wife would be a stay-at-home mother. He also expressed uncertainty about his future, his career plans, and even his desire to have children. Mike was about 7 or so years older than me, so I found it difficult to believe that a nearly 30-year-old man had not figured out his life goals. Of course, I was aware that Mike had been in and out of part-time jobs before that night. I knew he was still living with his family, still had his bills covered by someone else, but until that conversation, I had not realized that Mike truly wouldn't have been dependable in difficult situations. What if I were pregnant? What if I needed assistance in a crisis? The realization that he would not be the one to take care of me shattered my illusion for a moment. That night, in a moment of weakness, I slept with John for the first time in a long while. I cannot explain what led me to that decision, but afterward I understood that between Mike and John, John was the more stable choice. He now had a career despite being younger than Mike. He also had savings and wanted the same things I did: children and a stay-at-home wife. He aspired to be a provider, and that was all I had ever wanted. Mike and I broke up, and I resumed my relationship with John. Shortly after getting back together with John, I discovered I was pregnant. At this point, I was unsure whether the child was John's or Mike's. John knew this and assured me that he would welcome the child regardless of who the biological father was. I felt too ashamed to reach out to Mike about the situation, so I didn't. We continued with the pregnancy, and a few months before I was due, in 2020, John and I decided to get married. Our child was born later that year, and it was quite evident that John was the biological father. John and Mike look nothing alike. They have distinct hair colors and facial features, making it clear. In the first 1 or 2 years of our child's life, John and I dedicated ourselves to work. Eventually, we moved back in with my parents to save for our own home. My parents cared for our baby whenever both of us were working, and they alleviated us of the financial burden of rent and other bills. By 2022, we were finally able to buy a home. Things were relatively normal for us until sometime in 2023. Life was blissful and happy. My parents had helped me tremendously in dealing with the challenges of being a first-time parent. While it was somewhat lonely being home with just our baby, I appreciated how hard John worked for our family. He would put in 8 to 10-hour workdays, returning home exhausted, and handed over his paychecks to me so I could manage our bills and mortgage. He never complained, and I was happy to devote so much time to maintaining our house and caring for our child. I would have dinner prepared before he arrived and his lunches packed for work. We had settled into a routine that seemed beneficial for both of us. However, he began incessantly pushing for us to have threesomes. I constantly rejected his requests, no matter how much he insisted that things were getting dull in the bedroom. I could argue we were both just tired. He often turned me down because he was worn out from work, while I was exhausted from caring for our now toddler all on my own, not taking into account all the babysitting I was doing for my siblings living nearby. John would drop the subject for a week or so, then resume his pleading. I began to suspect that he was cheating again and that maybe he was suggesting his ex. He swore vehemently that this was not the case and that he did not have anyone specific in mind. He even suggested that I could find the third person on my own as long as she was a woman. He wore me down over the month until I eventually agreed to try to find someone. I had little success in finding someone on dating apps, which was a relief to me. I relayed this to him until he cracked and asked if I could convince someone to allow him to watch. I was disgusted with him, but he promised he wouldn't ask for anything more, insisting that this was all he wanted. So I found someone after some searching. While it was not particularly enjoyable for me, the woman ended up asking if I would consider becoming her third person, with her husband also involved. I refused, but the woman requested that I keep her contact information just in case I changed my mind. We continued in this manner for a while, finding women who were okay with John watching. I will admit at this point that John is not very attractive. Between myself and his ex, he had not managed to sleep with any other women. None had backed out after seeing John, but he definitely was not able to persuade any of these women to let him join in either. Eventually, John grew bored of watching, and our own sexual life never picked up the same. After all of this, I decided to snoop through his belongings again, which is when I discovered that he had returned to cheating with his ex. When I confronted him, he broke down, confessing that he had been unfaithful to me since the day after our wedding 3 years ago. I was utterly shattered by this revelation. Even though our relationship had been strained, I never imagined that throughout this time he had been unfaithful. We had built so much in the past 3 years, including a home and a child together. I exploded at him, and he repeated the same excuses. He claimed he had a problem, that he would seek help, that he would sever ties with her and never do it again. I shut him out and chose to reach out to his ex. I explained that he and I were married now with children, hoping she might be unaware of our situation. But she scoffed at me, mocked me for being upset, and stated she had no intention of stopping. I engaged in some pretty questionable behaviors following that, but to summarize, his ex has had him blocked since 2023, and he has been unable to successfully contact her since then. This leads us to 2024. We had just welcomed our second child, and things had remained unhappy and strained between John and me. We agreed to open our relationship for a brief time during which we could pursue whoever we wanted, hoping this might help our marriage. During this period, I met up with old hookups I had encountered before meeting John and contacted that one woman to explore the possibility of a threesome with her husband. It felt wrong for a while, but John had no issue making it clear to me that he was actively pursuing people, both at work and through apps. During this time, I reconnected with Mike, my ex. It genuinely felt as if we were picking up where we had left off, and during this period, I felt like my old self again, before marriage, before children, before all these obligations. I am ashamed to admit it, but I chose not to disclose any of this to Mike. To this day, Mike does not know that I am married and have children. There have been a couple of instances where I jokingly asked what he would do if I secretly had children. Would he stay with me? He immediately laughed and said absolutely not. So I knew my answer. When the month ended, John and I closed our relationship again. He confided that he had not been able to get with anyone. During that conversation, he remarked that he would be okay with me continuing to have sexual encounters with women only if it would fulfill a need for me that he could not. I consented to this, but did not genuinely intend to act on it. Then he was terminated from his job, and it was revealed that it was due to his sexually harassing his female coworkers. Even before we opened our relationship, John had been relentless in flirting with and trying to get the phone numbers of his female coworkers, causing many of them to quit eventually. One finally mustered the courage to report him, which led to his termination. I could not believe he had done that, especially considering it put our family and home at risk. He managed to secure a new job within a few months, during which we relied on our emergency funds to stay afloat. Yet, my frustration with him led me to continue my communication with Mike. Mike and I had kept in touch on and off since 2016, as well as after our 9-month relationship in 2018-2019. It was clear to me that Mike would not and could not support me and my children even if he knew about them. He was still jumping from one part-time job to another and still living with family, but he was emotionally present for me and reminded me of simpler times, a simpler version of myself. Conversations with him felt better than seeking any emotional connection with my husband. Our relationship progressed until we finally began meeting up for sexual encounters, typically in one of our cars. I justified it by saying that I lacked my own place and had a roommate, which meant I did not have any privacy, and he accepted that explanation. Toward the end of the year, we arranged to meet at a hotel. We spent the night together, had dinner, and acted as if we were living together. I informed John that I was meeting a girlfriend and that I would be spending the night because we would be drinking. I suspect John did not believe me, but he did not prevent me from going. That was the last night Mike and I spent together. He ghosted me the following day after we parted ways. He blocked me on all platforms and did not return any of my calls or messages until quite recently. He explained that he ghosted me because he became frightened by how perfect the night had been and could not bear the thought of returning to our previous arrangement of sneaking around and hooking up in cars. I did not know how to process that. For a moment, I wondered if he knew we were having an affair, but I assured him repeatedly that this was not true. I am struggling with the realization that I know my marriage was over even before it began and that I made a mistake in choosing to be with John over Mike. I cannot regret my children as they are the lights of my life, but I cannot continue living as I am. I have approached the topic of divorce with John multiple times. We have had conversations in which I begged him to be more emotionally available, especially before I discovered his infidelity. He works a lot, and I have always understood that, but he is rarely present for our children, seldom engages in parenting beyond playing with them occasionally, and pretty much only communicates with me by sharing humorous videos or complaining about work. I have suggested that I return to work, but childcare is expensive, and he claims it is unnecessary. I am starting to realize that he has essentially made me financially dependent on him, which I acknowledge I requested when we first got married, but it makes it impossible for me to contribute in any meaningful way or gain financial independence. When I mention divorce, John completely loses his temper. He claims he will never find love again as women do not find him attractive and that I am the best he will ever do. When pressed further, he begins threatening to inform the courts that I have a drug issue or that I use drugs around our children. I do not, but those threats are enough to silence me. I could never bear to lose my children, they are all I have. I have spoken to my parents and their responses are mixed. My father supports my decision to move back with them, promising to do whatever he can for my kids while I focus on getting back on my feet and saving money. However, my mother is already stretched thin from supporting my siblings during their difficult times and insists that I should work things out with John. Naturally, I have not shared the entire story with them. All they know is that I am unhappy. I do not know what to do. I am torn between trying to persuade John to reopen our marriage or proceeding with the divorce. If I go through with the divorce, I know I need to establish many safety nets in advance. I wonder if I should wait until my older child is in school, which should happen in the next year before re-entering the job market. But then what? Do I uproot my kids from everything they know? All their needs are being met. John provides for us without complaint, ensuring our children are spoiled with toys and clothing. How can I take them away from that? Any advice would be appreciated. Summary: my husband is a serial cheater, and it has reached a point where, even after our marriage and children, he continues to seek ways to cheat. This situation has led me to begin my own extramarital affairs, and I am filled with guilt over it. Story 2. Engaged at 28 to my husband, I had a close bond with his family until they turned on me. "You're robbing me of a grandchild," my mill screamed after a false pregnancy test revealed fertility issues. Now I'm torn between love and constant heartbreak. Can I fix this? I 28 female and my husband 32 male share a wonderful relationship. However, his family, who once embraced me as their own, has turned against me in painful and hurtful ways, especially following a recent health scare. I do not know how much longer I can endure this, even though I love him with all my heart. My husband and I have been together for 4 years and married for 2. We met when I was hired to plan his sister's wedding and we clicked instantly. We maintained a professional relationship during the wedding but began dating afterward. From the very beginning, our relationship felt magical. It was deeply respectful, loving, supportive, and safe. It is truly one of the most beautiful aspects of my life. As time went on, I also grew close to his family. His mother felt like a second mother to me, his younger sisters were like close friends, and their family dynamic, although founded on hardship, felt strong and warm. The only person who seemed off was his aunt, but I did not pay her much attention. I genuinely enjoyed being a part of their world until he proposed. It was everything I had ever dreamed of, a beautiful trip, a perfect moment, and pure joy. However, something changed upon our return. His mother, who used to be my confidant, suddenly seemed different, subtly cold and passive-aggressive. I noticed it but brushed it off in the excitement of my engagement. In retrospect, I wish I hadn't. Since then, things have only worsened. For over a year now, I have cried almost every day. I do not think there has been a single day without tears. The situation has become so toxic and painful that I have begun to question whether I can remain in this marriage, not because I do not love my husband, but because of how his family makes me feel. Some background: my husband has 3 sisters, 1 older, married, and 2 younger. His father passed away when he was very young and they grew up in severe poverty. His mother worked 5 jobs to support them and his maternal uncle helped them immensely, which may explain why his mother and aunt, the uncle's wife, are so close. From the time he started working at age 23, my husband has been the sole provider. He pays for his mother, aunt, uncle, and one of his sister's expenses. Today, the family is quite well off, largely because of him. They love him certainly, but often treat him like an ATM. Despite this, he never complains, he simply continues to give. I always admired his loyalty and deep love for his family. However, now I am uncertain how to feel because those same people who claim to love him have hurt me more than I can bear. Here are just a few instances of their behavior. After our engagement, his mother began making strange comments, stating that she would have to visit more often to check up on him now that he had more responsibilities. She once told him, "If I do not take care of him, who will? Me." During wedding planning, my husband joked that he just wanted to elope. His mother responded, "A good life partner should encourage sharing love with family, not separating you from them," even though we had no intention of excluding anyone. On our wedding day, she told me, "I know you will never be as good as I am at taking care of my son, but I will not expect that from you. I will try to guide you and hope you will be happy in this marriage." Then she hugged me and added that she hoped her son manages to be happy with me. We delayed our honeymoon for unrelated reasons. When his sister showed up at their house during a crisis, her marriage was toxic, we were expected to cancel entirely to support her. Although we were not against staying, the hypocrisy was astounding. They had labeled me an outsider, yet suddenly expected me to step up. I grew close to that same sister during this period. I even helped her secure a job on my event planning team and recommended a therapist she seemed to really like. She told me she was happier than she had felt in years. But then suddenly my mother-in-law accused me of manipulating her into thinking something was wrong and forcing her to go to therapy. She compelled her to quit the job and stop therapy. Her aunt remarked that I cared more about my business than her emotions. The sister now refuses to speak to me and makes passive-aggressive comments. Once I had to travel out of the city for work, and during that time my husband fell seriously ill, extremely sick. I was frantic and kept calling and messaging him, but there was no response. My anxiety only grew that night. Later, I learned that his mother had turned off his phone to avoid any disturbances. While I can understand wanting him to rest, what hurt me was that she did not bother to reply to even one of my 60 messages. However, she did message his secretary to inform him about my husband's condition, so she clearly had the means to communicate, just not the will to inform me, his wife. I did not learn the full extent of his condition until I returned the next day and saw that he had been admitted to the hospital. I broke down in tears the moment I saw him. In that moment of heartbreak, my mother-in-law chose to lecture me about balancing work and personal life. I still have not fully processed that day. One of the younger sisters had a boyfriend who cheated on her with someone he met during one of my events. When the aunt discovered this, she accused me of knowing and keeping it from them to hurt the sister. Thankfully, no one believed that absurdity, not even my mother-in-law. But the most painful moment occurred just 3 weeks ago. I thought I was pregnant. My husband and I took 3 tests, all of which were positive. We were terrified yet thrilled. I wanted to wait for my usual obstetrician and gynecologist, who was out of town for a week, before confirming with a scan or blood test, but I was too excited and shared the news with close friends and family, including his younger sisters and mother-in-law. For the first time in years, his mother was kind and supportive. Even the aunt congratulated me. That night, I cried not just because I was going to be a mother, but also because I thought I had finally reconnected with them. I believed we were once again a family. My aunt-in-law recommended a doctor, so we went, where we learned that I was not pregnant. The tests were false positives. But that was not all. A scan revealed an ovarian cyst, and due to an accident I had experienced a few years ago which caused a miscarriage, I might face fertility issues in the future. I was devastated. My husband was heartbroken. We cried and held each other for hours. He protected me fiercely, not allowing anyone to visit or bombard me with questions. We required space to grieve. When his mother learned, she cried, not out of empathy, but because her son had lied to her when he assured her everything was okay. He had lied for my sake, as I had asked him to give me time and privacy. She screamed at me for robbing her of the joy of becoming a grandmother. She accused me of denying her a grandchild, then declared she would not accept me as her daughter-in-law unless I provided her an heir. I was too emotionally drained to respond. 3 days ago, my husband and I visited my gynecologist, the one I trust and have seen for years. She took the time to explain everything in detail: the false positives, the cyst, my current fertility concerns. She answered all our questions with incredible compassion. When she finished, I broke down and cried in her arms for an hour. Throughout that time, I wished it was my mother-in-law comforting me instead, because before all of this, prior to the engagement and the shift in her behavior, that is what she would have done. She would have hugged me, loved me, and supported me, and I needed her so much in that moment. I still do. But she is not that person anymore, and I do not understand why. Since we live in the same building, no contact is not really feasible. My husband has tried everything. He has defended me, banned the older sister from our home, and scolded every single person who wronged me. He even yelled at his mother when she mentioned the idea of disowning me, but she fainted. He feels guilty, and now I feel guilty too. He is emotionally exhausted as well. He shed tears with me when I expressed that I felt I could not survive in this family. He wondered if they even loved him, considering they could not support the one thing he chose for himself, me. That realization shattered me. Despite everything, I love him more than anything. He is my peace and my comfort. No matter how broken I feel, his voice brings me calm, yet I am drowning. I wake up sad and cry every day. My life feels like a nightmare from which I cannot escape. I do not want to divorce him, but I do not want to live like this either. I just want his family to love me as I loved them. I want things to return to how they were. I desire to feel happy again. I want to feel as though I matter. Right now, I just feel lost. I am in desperate need of advice. What can I do in this situation? I feel like I have tried everything. I have been patient, kind, and have stood up for myself. My husband has stood up for me, but it is never enough. They continue to push and hurt me, and I am starting to break. I do not want to lose my husband. He is the love of my life. Yet I also do not want to persevere in a situation like this. I feel like I am being slowly erased in a home that should have been mine too. Is there any way to fix this? Is there anything left for me to try? How can I protect myself without destroying the man I love? If there is no way out, how do I find the strength to walk away from someone who has never hurt me but whose family will not stop? Please be honest, I do not know how much more of this I can endure. Summary. I used to share a close bond with my husband's family, particularly his mother. Since our engagement, his mother, aunt, and sister have turned against me. After a false positive pregnancy test, we discovered I have an ovarian cyst and fertility issues. My mother-in-law accused me of robbing her of a grandchild and stated that she would not accept me any longer. I love my husband, but I am emotionally exhausted and feel suffocated in this situation. I experience sadness and anxiety every day. What hurts the most is that I loved his family, I miss what we had, and I wish they loved me as I loved them. However, I do not know how to either stay or leave. I will write it here since I do not know how to update a post or pin a comment. Okay, so it is done. We are moving out but staying in the same city. We already have an apartment located about 20 minutes from our current residence, so we are moving there for the time being. It is not very far, but it is a step forward. Regarding the withdrawal of support, my husband told me that his father asked him to take care of his mother and sisters, which has weighed heavily on him. So he will not withdraw financial support just yet but will cease unnecessary interactions with them. My younger sister-in-law is a bit wary about us moving out, but his uncle supports our decision, so I assume everything will work out. He has also decided to write a letter to inform her and the aunt about this decision instead of verbally communicating it, for obvious reasons. My only concern is that he does not seem to realize that she is not only a bad mother-in-law but also a bad mother for manipulating his emotions for so long. He will start therapy, so I hope that helps. I just feel so bad for him. Even now he fears that I will divorce him or something, which I will not do, as I have learned that would be abandoning him and facing these people alone, and I refuse to do that. I now have 4 problems. 1. How do we leave without her noticing? My husband is writing his letter and will give it to his uncle instead of directly handing it to his mother. I will finish packing in a few hours, but I am scared she will see us, scream at me, faint, and injure herself on the tarmac or something. One of my friends suggested she might have a heart attack given her hypertension. That would be extreme. No matter what she has done, I do not want her to die or harm herself. How can we soften the blow? 2. If I get pregnant, though unlikely, and she suddenly becomes friendly again, should I forgive and forget or hold onto the grudge? I might let it go in that moment, but I hesitate to do so, since many have pointed out that she may even harass me after I have children, and I do not want them exposed to such behavior. 3. How do I make my husband realize that he has been taken advantage of and that these are not good people? I once believed they were good and simply did not like me, but that realization was painful yet important. I have observed parallels between their behavior towards him and me. The only difference is that they attempt to exclude me from everything while including him. I fear this may truly break him because he loves his family with selflessness, and I doubt that some therapy will be enough. 4. Should we discontinue attending any gatherings where my mother-in-law and aunt will be present? Knowing them, it is unlikely to be peaceful, and I am worried they will share unpleasant comments about me. I know it sounds silly, but being disliked by those you love is taxing enough. I do not want the same treatment from strangers either. Also, since my mother-in-law has claimed she will not accept me as her daughter-in-law if I do not provide her with a grandchild, I believe I am off the hook for now, right? Thank you for your support. These are definite steps we should have taken much earlier. It has been difficult to relinquish the notion of a perfect, loving family I initially envisioned. I wanted to be a part of it because I believed it was a genuinely happy and healthy family before I entered the picture. I have since realized that this is not true, at least not for my husband. I also want to acknowledge the gut-wrenching position my husband is in. I know this is incredibly challenging for him, but I will make sure he understands how much I love him and that he is worth more than the financial support he provides. He is a kind and amazing individual who is an integral part of my life, and I am so grateful for him. I feel oddly excited now. I am smiling as I write this and excitedly moving about our room with clothes in my hands. I hope we can achieve the life we envisioned for ourselves when he proposed to me. Thank you again, I needed the push. Story 3. I saw a message from my girlfriend's coworker calling her BBY after she claimed to be unhappy. She denied everything, but why was she so quick to delete their chat? I'm left wondering, has she really been faithful or is this just the calm before the storm? My girlfriend, age 22, is likely being unfaithful to me, age 27, with her coworker. I am certain about what I witnessed, yet she continues to deny it. We have been together for nearly 3 years. Everything seemed perfect, or at least I believed so. She changed her job and has been there for about 6 months now. She is quite introverted and shy, which is why she did not interact much with her coworkers. Then, she formed a friendship with a new female coworker who is extroverted and has no trouble engaging with others. My girlfriend came into contact with her other coworkers through this new friend. This is when they began to develop a new friendship with a few coworkers. They enjoyed each other's company and wanted to meet up on a Sunday to have lunch and chat, which felt completely normal. The following week, she mentioned that she would meet up with her female coworker on Wednesday because her coworker's parents were nearing a divorce, and my girlfriend wanted to support her. A few days later, she told me that she was experiencing stomach pain. We were supposed to celebrate my sister's birthday on Saturday, but she considered not joining us. However, after a discussion, she decided to make an effort to come along. She seemed somewhat off the whole day. She was constantly on her phone, made my sister sit in the front seat, and avoided riding certain roller coasters due to her stomach issues. When my sister and I tried to board the next roller coaster but had to return because it was under maintenance, we came back to find her holding her phone to her ear as if she were about to make a call. Upon seeing us, she quickly disconnected and said she was going to call her mom later. Her entire demeanor seemed strange, but I attributed it to her stomach troubles. As the next week began, when she visited me on Tuesday after work, she broke down and confessed that she was unhappy. She shared several things troubling her. I was also in tears because this revelation was unexpected and put our relationship in jeopardy. She apologized, expressing that she had kept everything bottled up instead of being open with me, despite our earlier agreement to communicate about any issues. She wanted some space to reflect on everything, but I felt suspicious and deeply hurt. I struggled to sleep that night, contemplating everything and realizing that she might be right in saying I was not perfect in all situations. I wrote her a heartfelt apology letter and bought her some beautiful flowers. I couldn't give her the space she requested and wanted her to visit me again for further discussion. When I presented her with the flowers and letter, she was genuinely touched, and we talked about everything. It felt as though we were on the right path again, and the days that followed were wonderful. However, the next week, I came across something that made me feel physically ill. I saw a message from her male coworker on her Snapchat in which he referred to her as baby. He also inquired why she had not been using any hearts lately and asked if everything was all right. I was shocked, my heart raced, prompting me to wake her up. I informed her of what I found, but she initially denied everything. The day before, she had taken pictures of her new clothes, and I know she sent them to him via Snapchat as well. She had tried on lingerie, which may also be part of what she sent. She wanted to see how her dress looked from behind and attempted to take a photo. I offered to take the picture for her, and after some initial hesitation, she agreed. While I was holding the phone, I noticed that she received a new Snapchat message from someone whose contact did not have a name, only an emoji. When I inquired about who it was, she provided a different name. It turned out that this individual was the same person who had called her baby. I confronted her, but she denied everything. After discussing the situation, I insisted that she unlock her phone to show me the messages, or else I would find them myself. She resisted my request and refused. I told her that her refusal to show me her phone only indicated that she had something to hide, and if she suddenly agreed to show me their conversation after work, it would imply that she had deleted everything. We both left for work, but I returned home because I felt nauseous. We exchanged messages, and she continued to deny everything, so I drove over to her workplace to confront her and her coworker. They both lied to me. Later, she somewhat acknowledged that something had occurred, but she insisted it was her female coworker's doing. I called her out on this and managed to get her to confess that it was in fact him, but she claimed she did not really comprehend the situation. I know for certain that he had sent her voice messages calling her baby. She had no real answers for any of my questions. We met again after work. She was willing to show me her Snapchat, but everything between the two of them had vanished. Convenient, right? She claimed that after I left they spoke, and he decided he did not want to be friends anymore, so he blocked her. Yeah, friends. I found this hard to believe, so I asked her to prove it. I let her block me, and indeed the conversation was deleted from my phone as well. How convenient, right? Regarding their WhatsApp chat, I knew they had been conversing there, but she insisted there was nothing to be concerned about. WhatsApp was for normal interactions you would expect between colleagues, while Snapchat was reserved for everything she wanted to keep secret from me. What did I discover? She showed me their WhatsApp chat, which was completely empty. I immediately deduced that she had deleted it and called her out on this. She stated they had never communicated through WhatsApp, but I called her out for lying again, as she then claimed she had deleted their chat 2 weeks ago. I know for certain that she deleted it the very same day we had that discussion. From that moment on, it became clear to me that she was lying about everything. Her explanation for this situation. That Sunday when she met with her coworkers, he noticed the scars on her forearms. He asked about them and they discussed the topic. He offered her the option to reach out if she ever needed someone to talk to. Apparently she did. According to her, they snapped about the issue of self-harm. When I asked why she did not talk to me, her boyfriend, about it, she replied that she was uncertain how I would react and did not want me to worry. She explained that they communicated about that topic, and she thanked him for being supportive, adding a pink heart at the end of her message. They chatted more, and I suppose they incorporated hearts at the end of their messages. I informed her that this was inappropriate. She argued that they were not red hearts as those signified love, which was what she sent to me. She believed it was acceptable to send different colored hearts to friends. I can understand that to some degree, but how can you transition from discussing self-harm to him literally calling you baby? I told her she had crossed a boundary and that if such a thing occurred, she should have established where that boundary lay. Only after I brought this up did she say she had done that. However, he did not call her baby just once. Even if she had chastised him, why did she continue to stay in contact with him, and why was she sending him pictures of herself wearing her new clothes? Again, she had tried on lingerie. She insisted that she did not send any lingerie pictures, only photos of the regular clothes. Even if there were no lingerie pictures, why would you send him photos of yourself? Those should be reserved for your boyfriend or family members only. It is inappropriate if a male coworker is involved. She claimed this was not a significant issue and that they discussed her new clothes during their lunch break, which was why she wanted to share them. So according to her, all of this created some emotional connection. I was furious. What did she mean by that? To this day, she insists that it was only a friendship. They talked about self-harm and she felt understood. They became friends, but nothing more than that. She maintains that they never engaged in any physical intimacy, no kissing, no sex, nothing of the sort. She is adamant that she did not cheat on me. I still could not accept her word, so I requested to see everything on her phone. I told her I wanted full access because I thought she could be hiding information and perhaps using another messaging app. However, this request was too much for her, and she refused to let me see her phone, no matter how often I insisted. The next day, she suddenly agreed to allow me to look through her phone, well, of course, because she had likely deleted more evidence in the meantime. I asked her how I could trust her after all of the lies, and that I knew she was being dishonest, because I was fully aware of what I had witnessed. She told me she would give me her word. Well, after all those lies, her word meant nothing. I needed more than just that. To this day, she still does not admit to having cheated. I told her that if it were truly only a friendship and nothing more, she would have nothing to conceal. She replied that she hid it because she assumed I would become angry or jealous, as I supposedly always express that random guys are interested in her for sex. What a coincidence. That guy clearly wanted more than just a harmless friendship. There must have been something more than friendship if he was calling her baby, right? I am completely drained. I am hurt to my core, trembling, crying uncontrollably. I cannot sleep or eat. I love her unconditionally. I genuinely do. I believe I am a good person with a kind heart. I know that I have treated her well. Of course, I am not perfect. I have made mistakes too, but they were insignificant in comparison. Overall, I know that I am the best boyfriend she has ever had. Her previous partners had directly insulted her, and one even physically harmed her. Some important details about her. She has been in multiple relationships since the age of 12, so for the past 10 years, she has always been involved in some kind of relationship that did not last long, but she always seemed to have the next guy lined up. She harmed herself in the past and has now returned to doing so after stopping for about 5 years. She does not have siblings, friends, or significant hobbies aside from doing her nails. She was in a relationship with her last boyfriend when she made a move on me. I was aware of this, and I did not want to separate them, but I had been single for several years, and I had never experienced a long-lasting relationship before, so I developed feelings for her as well. She has confessed that she cheated on 2 occasions in the past. Oh, and she always disliked techno music, but now she has a techno playlist. Guess who genuinely enjoys techno? Yes. All of this appears to create a very clear picture, and everyone with whom I have discussed this believes it is evident. The truth is, I still love her wholeheartedly with every fiber of my being. I desperately want to trust her, to believe that all of this is true and that I am merely deluding myself, as that would mean she did not cheat on me. But how can you reconcile all of this? We have yet to reach a solution, and I simply cannot bring myself to do so, even though it could not be more apparent. Am I losing my mind? Is there truly nothing to worry about? But why does she lie about everything and keep it secret? She claims that she still loves me and does not want to lose me. I am her future. Why is she so intent on holding on to me? Her assertion that she still loves me, combined with my overthinking, makes me feel as though there is still hope. Perhaps I am deceiving myself. She requested some distance, so I gave her exactly that. I told her to visit me again next Friday. She appeared quite sad and cried. Initially, I felt a sense of relief, but now it is consuming me. I fear she may be using this free time to cheat on me further. Please advise me on how to interpret all of this. We have endured so much over the past 3 years. We have always supported each other. It truly felt like it was us against the world. We have shared immense pain as well as many beautiful moments together, and this situation hurts more than anything I have ever experienced. I feel as if I am dying, and I am frightened of a future that does not include her. She is my person, my forever. Story 4. I met my girlfriend at a Shrek rave while she, in a playful haze, shared my passion for ants and psychology. "You're the first girl to out-talk me," my friend said. Just days later, I faced betrayal from a longtime friend. Can love bloom in chaos? The beginning of this post provides context for my feelings toward her that I need to express. How we met? It is somewhat amusing how the day I attended my friend's pre-party for a Shrek rave was the day this occurred. My friends and I had been planning to go to this Shrek rave for a month during St. Patrick's weekend. Consequently, I invited a girl I had befriended last term with whom I had been spending more time lately since she began flirting with me. I wanted to see if we had chemistry beyond just friendship. I liked many of her interests and her personality thus far. She even brought snacks and some energy drinks which my friend, the host of the party, greatly appreciated. She mentioned that she liked the girl I brought because of it. However, before arriving, we had smoked a marijuana bowl, and she had to become nonverbal for the rest of the day, making a few funny comments here and there. I made sure to ask her if I could do anything for her and offered to get her water. She assured me she was enjoying herself and just wanted to relax and observe while contributing some humorous comments when she could. I understood and gave her space when she needed it and went to converse with all my friends at the party. I was familiar with most of the attendees except for two girls that my friend, the host, invited and introduced me to. She had invited my now girlfriend's best friend, who invited her in turn, and immediately we began directing the conversation among the 9 people present. We discussed our psychology classes, and we were both eager to hear each other's perspectives from the outset. Friends occasionally chimed in, but it was mainly just the two of us educating the group. From there, I shifted the conversation toward ants of all topics. I have a strong passion for ants and their continent-spanning wars, as they represent an entire society. She was so engaged in our conversation that she asked to join me outside on the balcony to smoke a bowl with me. We talked easily for 30 minutes. Friends would step out periodically to check on us, and each time I would respond that we were just discussing ants and philosophy, allowing them to leave us be. Her best friend stepped out a few times, and each time she reassured her that everything was fine and that we should be left alone. At this point, I had not considered her as a potential romantic option. She was simply someone fascinating I had met at this party, with whom I was enjoying an interesting conversation about interests in psychology, games, television shows, and philosophical views. I was so engrossed in our exchange that I did not even realize we were flirting. Eventually, we returned inside to take a group photo before heading out. I asked for her and her friends' Instagram handles before they departed for the club. I had consumed psilocybin mushrooms before going to the rave and had a great time with the remainder of my friends. The girl I had invited left before the group photo was taken, stating that she needed to go home to rest. She also did not have a ticket to the rave, so she could not attend. After the event, during the car ride home, my friend hosting the pre-party informed me that she had noticed me and her friend flirting on the balcony the entire time. I was surprised yet pleased to learn that we had apparently been flirting, which prompted me to message her a week later and ask her out the following day. Even more astonishing, just 4 days after meeting her, my best friend of 6 years unexpectedly ended our friendship after I confided in her about my fear of being in a depressive episode and pushing people away through self-isolation. I requested that she and another close friend check on me weekly. She told me she did this to respect her relationship more. I was in a rather low state, but strived to connect with others, which inspired me to message my now girlfriend with the mentality of seizing opportunities to form meaningful connections. The reason I write this in this subreddit is due to some emotions I wish to express toward her, while wanting to ensure that I take things slow, given how quickly we have progressed already. Here are the notes I wrote last night about her. Do everything possible to make her happy, find a way to describe her and tell her how beautiful she is. I can tell she is kind based on her actions toward others, especially her friends. It may be too early to label this as love, but I genuinely like this woman. I want to differentiate between love and infatuation. I have not felt this chemistry in a long time, not only because she wants to hang out with me as much as I do with her, but also because she shares many of my interests and is knowledgeable about niche topics more than half the time so far. I appreciate her curiosity to genuinely learn more about my thoughts, and she has so much to say as well. She is incredibly cool with extensive knowledge in marine biology. I love her passion for her interests. Ecology is a key aspect of my studies to make the world more beautiful, and I admire that she is involved in it. Be someone with whom she can share anything, help her feel secure doing so, and alleviate her anxiety. Do not rush things, savor the beginning. All things take time, so give each opportunity its own chance to shine. Kiss her when appropriate and be the partner she deserves. Get to know her deeply, understand the little things she does, share laughs, and cherish each touch. She is incredibly kind, from the way she prepares my breakfast to her enthusiasm for conversation and attendance at my events. The way she easily helps me with my vision makes me hope to capture every moment of her beauty in my mind so that I never forget her once my eyesight fades. I have loved 2 people in my life before meeting her. Those loves were deep and meaningful in their own ways. I would never compare my past loves, as they all have existed in parallel, each having its moment of unique beauty and concluding amicably, leading me to find her. It has been effortless to communicate with her. I have not worried about any conversation or topic we have discussed. We somehow share similar thoughts. Her arriving early for my band's show was unexpected and delightful. She provides me with immense support, and I aspire to reciprocate that for her. I cherish that all my friends like her, how everyone has told me she seems like the perfect fit for me, how she is the only girl I have brought who can outtalk me, and how her friend group resembles mine and shares a sense of humor. The kindness and fun spirits of her friends indicate to me that she has a good support system. Knowing she has a best friend whom she refers to as her wife, who I believe would do anything for her, reinforces that she is something special and capable of forming deep, meaningful connections with others. I hope to bring people together and host a significant gathering with her friends and mine. I may not be able to see the beauty of blue in the sky as I once did, but I find it in her eyes. I believe this is the beginning of something extraordinary, and I aspire to create a universe as beautiful as her soul. I intend to express my love for her with complete confidence in 2 to 3 months.